what you want to do to find your horse stance, to get the proper dimensions, is you're going to go on the balls of your feet first, go 1, then the heels, 2, and then 3 is back on the balls of the feet. And your feet will be about shoulder width apart, where your shoulders, the outside of your shoulders, meet the insides of your feet. So let's look at that again. You'll go 1, pigeon-toed, 2, diamond, and then 3, horse. Those are actually stances in between too. This is called a concave stance, this is a diamond stance, and then this is the horse. So you're actually learning 3 stances there in that one little movement. And of course, as time goes by, you'll be able to just step right into it and have the proper dimension. Okay, now that you've found your horse, look at it from the side as well. The thing to remember about your horse is to keep your body erect. You want good balance, you want good posture, okay? So now, let's talk about the neutral bow. Go ahead and turn it on for a second. Let's talk about the neutral bow, which is the next stance. Let's say that we're in that horse stance, and see how both of our toes are on this line? What we're going to do is, the way you can find your neutral bow real simply is find your horse first, go into your 3-part movement, right? And so you're toe to toe on this line. And then once you're in the dimensions of your horse, just take your left foot and stagger it a little bit to where your heel is on the line. Then pivot a little bit on the balls of your feet until your feet are at a probably a 45-degree angle to the front. You're at 12 o'clock, so that's going to be a 45-degree angle. So once you're in your neutral bow, you've got your toe-heel alignment. That's what we call that, toe-heel alignment, okay? So let's do that again. We're in a horse. We simply stagger and put the feet at a 45-degree angle to the front of the room, okay? Then you can switch, practice on the opposite side, toe-heel alignment. The neutral bow is really not too hard to find. Let's say you're in your horse and you want to step straight back to 6 o'clock. Just remember toe-heel alignment. Okay, also stepping forward, toe-heel alignment. And that's a neutral bow. The way you find your forward bow is all you have to do is simply, let's say our left foot is forward at 12 o'clock. What we're going to do is we're going to pivot on the right foot only and leave our left foot in place. Don't move it at all. So watch that rear foot. And it becomes parallel, almost parallel to the front of the room. And the back leg straightens out. Let's look at it from a side angle. You're in your neutral bow and simply pivot the rear leg. Lock it out to where it has a bracing angle to the ground at this 45. Okay? So look at that again. Forward bow, neutral bow. Neutral, forward bow, neutral bow. Step here. And now I'm in a neutral bow to 9 o'clock. Now I'm in a forward bow to 9 o'clock. Okay? That's real simple to find. It's not that difficult. Look at it from this angle. Forward bow, neutral bow. Okay? I'm going to tell you what a reverse bow is right now, since it's so simple to find it. All you have to do is turn, let's say I'm facing to the rear of the room. If I just pivot, now I'm in a reverse bow. A reverse bow is determined by the line of sight where I'm looking to the rear. It's nothing more than a forward bow to 6 o'clock, but if I turn and face 12 o'clock, then I'm in a reverse bow. So look at our stances again. We've got our horse, we've got our neutral, we've got our forward bow. Now let's talk about our cat stance for a minute. Let's say that we're in a neutral bow facing 3 o'clock, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this leg and just drag it up to right about there. And this is a 45-degree cat stance. The reason why it's called a 45-degree cat stance is because this foot is at a 45-degree angle to where I'm facing, which is right now 3 o'clock. I'll face you and do it. The easiest way to find this is, let's say you're standing at attention 12 o'clock. Turn to a 45-degree angle. See how this foot is? Take it exactly 1 foot out and then bend your knees. See how it's flat, and just bend the knees and lift the heel of the foot up. And that's the cat stance. Remember, 1 foot out. Right there. Okay? There's your cat stance. I can't bend this leg too well. Okay, Bill. Let's just do a little foot routine and work with our stance a little bit. Go into a horse, okay? Step back into your neutral bow. Keeping in mind toe-heel alignment. Cat up, 45-degree cat. Step straight back and go into another neutral bow. Let's turn, let's use our clock system too. Let's talk about that. You're at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock's behind me, and 9 o'clock is to the left. So what we're going to do is we're going to step out from here. We're going to step out to 9 o'clock. Then we're going to step back to 6 o'clock. Drag up to 6, and and then continue stepping back to 6 o'clock and pivot into your neutral bow. Now we're going to step over to about 1:30 and pivot, and we're going to be facing 9 o'clock in a left neutral bow to 9 o'clock. Now I'm going to cat up, and now I'm in my left 45 cat. And I'm going to step straight back, and now, can you still see Bill? Now you're in a right neutral bow to 9 o'clock. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right foot and I'm going to move it over to 6 o'clock and pivot and face 3 o'clock. Now I'm in a left neutral bow towards 3 o'clock. Now I'm going to cat up into a 45 cat and continue stepping back and pivot. And now I'm in a neutral bow, a right neutral bow facing 3 o'clock still. Now I'm going to take my left foot and I'm going to step over toward 3 o'clock and pivot. And now I'm in a right neutral bow facing 6 o'clock. I'm going to take my feet now and I'm going to cat up. And now I'm in a right cat stance towards 6 o'clock. Step back, pivot, left neutral bow to 6 o'clock. Now I'm going to simply take my foot and step over to about 10:30, which is in this direction on the clock. Now I'm back in my horse. So let's look at that. Let's talk about covering too. Well, we'll do that when we'll talk about covering when we get into the short form. So let's look at our stances. We learned about stepping and facing 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. We use our clock principle. Horse, a neutral bow, horse to neutral bow, cat, right cat stance to 12, left neutral bow to 12. Cover out, left neutral bow to 9 o'clock, left cat to 9 o'clock, right neutral bow to 9 o'clock, right cat. Okay, step back. Let's go over here, left neutral bow to 3 o'clock, left cat stance to 3 o'clock, right neutral bow to 3 o'clock. Step over, right neutral bow to 6 o'clock, right cat stance to 6 o'clock, left neutral bow to 6 o'clock, then back to 12. And we're in our horse again. Feet together. That's it. Talk about our blocks now. We're going to go through our basic blocks. What we're going to do is we're going to start with our inward block first, and we're going to cock these blocks. Later on, when you get a little more advanced, we're not going to be cocking the blocks. We're going to start from points of origin. What we're going to do right here is let's go ahead and get our hands up. Let's start by raising our right hand, our right fist up here, and then we're going to block over at an angle. We're not going to block straight across or straight forward. It's going to be at a 45-degree angle. You're at 12 o'clock. You're at 12 o'clock, so we're going to be blocking towards 10:30 at that angle. It's a 45-degree angle because you want your blocks to have both depth and width. Go ahead. Are we still going to turn on? Start blocking. We're going to start with our right inward block, and we're going to block at a 45-degree angle. So if you're at 12 o'clock and my left side is 9 o'clock, and I'm going to block at a 45-degree angle, we're essentially going to be taking and blocking to 10:30 over in that corner. Picture a big clock on the ground. So right inward block. Pull it back, cock up the left, and left inward block. And this one goes to 1:30. And let's just look at those motions for a few minutes, and they snap out. Bam. And torque that wrist and snap. And you're hitting with this part of the hand, which is the hammering part of the hand. Because these blocks should have a double factor. They should also cause injury as well as blocking. They should be an offensive weapon as well as a defensive weapon. So inward block, cock it, inward block, cock it, inward, 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 okay? Boom, and notice the economy of motion where the arm is kept only about a fist away from the body. Fist. Let's look at it from the side angle too, Bill. From here, 45, 45, boom, boom, boom. And don't forget, when doing your blocks, you want to seek depth and width, you know? A lot of people, they want to block this when they're only getting depth. Or if you block to the front, you're only getting depth, you're only getting width. Okay? Let's talk about the outward block now, the vertical outward block. This block, we're going to come over this side of the body, and we're going to snap it out this way, right there. Go straight out to the side. Remember, economy of motion. Don't get this too far away from you. Okay? Keep your elbow tight and anchored, close up. About eye level. Your fist should be about eye level with your, right here. Okay? And do the opposite side. Outward. 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 Notice how they just exchange. Outward. 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 That's a vertical outward block. Look at it from the side how it works. Notice how the back is kept erect, the posture is always erect, always in good balance. Okay? Now let's look at the rising block. The rising block is going to come, or an upward block, whichever you prefer to call it. It's going to come up almost like an uppercut punch, and as soon as it gets to right above the eye level, it starts to torque and snap over. So it comes up and snaps. Snaps, comes up and snaps, just like an uppercut punch, and then snaps over. And the reason why, watch from this angle for a second, snap, snap, snap. And the reason why is because if you try to come straight up, a lot of people do this. They try to block straight up like that. And you're using your medial deltoid more than you are the front. Your front's where your real power is at. So if you do it this way and snap up, you'll have a lot more power coming up because you'll be using mostly the front and the medial. Here you're only using the medial. The other thing too is don't forget, once you block up, your hand should create a roof over you. You should have a 45-degree angle over your head. See, a lot of people block like this and you can even see the top of their head. That's incorrect. Create a roof over your head so that things glance off. Okay? So now let's start talking about downward motions, pendulum motions. We're going to take our hand over here and block down. And this block should sweep right in front of the body and end right out here. And this is your downward block. Downward. Notice how I cock it up here by your tricep and then straight down. Block out. Block out. Out. Just like that. Side angle. Here. Here. Those are downward blocks. Now let's talk about a downward palm heel block. Same downward motion, except we're going straight down this way. And this pushes right down in front of your body. And this is your downward palm heel block. Look at it from the side. Okay. Let's talk about another outward block, the extended outward block. If this was the vertical outward block, this would be an extended outward block. And for obvious reasons. Here it's vertical, here it's extended out a little bit. And look at how that looks as it's being applied. Extended outward block. See? All right. Let's put them all together in a little routine we call block set. Let's start by going up and rising block, inward block, vertical outward, downward, back elbow, palm heel block, extended outward block. Cover, rising, inward, vertical outward, downward, back, heel palm, extended outward. Up, extended outward. It's a little simple routine that you can do to practice your blocks, putting them together. Wax on, wax off. Okay, that's it for that. Look at foot maneuvers. Stances and maneuvers are two different things. A stance is actually a stationary, settled position where you're stabilizing your base while you're in a combat situation. Stabilizing your base means being good and solid and having good, strong stance for good balance, okay? What we're going to do is now talk about foot maneuvering. And of course, at the yellow belt phase, it's not going to be too in-depth, but you're going to learn the basics. I'm going to move laterally this way. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the step, drag, and the drag step. This would be a step and a drag. This would be a drag step. And I can also do it going back. Step, drag, step. And it doesn't mean, well, a step means he's lifting his foot, a drag means he's dragging his foot. No, that's not exactly what it means. The difference between a step and a drag is that a step broadens your stance, whereas a drag narrows your stance, and that's actually the difference between the two. So if I broaden, I'm stepping. I drag, I'm narrowing. Now that's a forward. Okay. Now let's do it reversed, or to the rear. I'm going to be dragging and stepping. Okay. So let's watch that. Step, drag. Okay. Drag, step. Drag, step. Step, drag. And mix it up to where you're stepping and dragging so that you can start to get the feel and understand the difference between the two. Let's talk about a step through. Let's do it in this direction. Break up monotony of going in one direction. I'll do it facing you first. This would be a step through. A step is just like walking. I'm walking towards you and I'm stepping. Okay? A step through would simply be from one stance to another. Transition in your maneuvers. Okay? So this is a reverse step through, forward step through. If I'm going back, I'm doing a reverse step through. If I'm going forward, it's a forward step through. Okay? So let's look at this for a second. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to do a step drag, and then I'm going to do a forward step through. I'm going to do a reverse step through, and I'm going to do a step drag back. See how we mix those up together? And that's the basic maneuvering that you need to know at this level. We'll get more in depth on other maneuvers later on. Okay, go ahead and cut it. Let's start out. I'm going to show you how to do short form 1. Short form 1, we're going to put everything together now. Let's put those blocks together. Let's put those foot maneuvers together, and let's put our stances in there. Okay. I haven't shown you the salutation yet, and I have to show you that right now because that's how the forms start. That's where all our forms are going to be starting out. The way we're going to do that is we're going to do a stance you haven't learned yet, which is called a twist stance. And we're going to be stepping towards 12 o'clock in our twist stance, going into a cat. Then we're going to step back, back again. The footwork is not too complicated on this. 1, 2, and then back. The hands, however, start to make it a little more interesting. We're going to take the right fist is going to be closed continuously, and this hand's going to be open because we've got the warrior and the shield. We've got the open hand represents the scholar, like paper, and of course the fist represents the warrior. So we have the warrior and the scholar, or the weapon and the shield. And these hands are going to, can you see my hands real good, Bill? What we're going to do is we're going to take and put them in this way. And you're going to, I'll do it from a side angle as well, but let's look at it from the front first. Start over by your ear, and then push them forward. And then take and put them back to back, roll them, fists together like this, and pull them back to your rib cage. And let's look at how that flows together. Nice and slow. Watch it from this angle. Okay? Over here by your cheek and ear. Push them out. Back to back. And in. Okay? From the front again. Now I'm going to show you the rest of it. As we step out, we're going to make a big circle. Form a triangle over our head where we can look up through. Bring it down in front of your mouth. And close this fist and wrap your left hand over the top. And then as it goes down, they open and forms the praying hands in front of the heart. Okay? Make a big circle. Let's look at the whole salutation again. This is called the long greeting. Okay? Triangle here, in front of the mouth, in front of the heart. Look at it from a side angle. This way. Cross. Big circle, make a heart. This forms a heart shape this way. Okay, now once we've done that, we come here, go back into our meditating position, hold it for a couple of seconds, clear your mind, and start thinking about our task at hand. We're going to put our stances, our maneuvers, and our blocks all together in one thing we call short form 1. We're going to step back and do that inward block in a right neutral bow facing 12 o'clock. We're going to step back here, and there's our cat, and go straight back and do left inward block to 12 o'clock. We're going to step over, and we're going to step to 130 and go into our left neutral bow facing 9 o'clock. And as we do, we're going to do a right inward block followed by left outward block. Cat up, right outward block to 9 o'clock. Now we're going to step over and do a right inward block followed by a left rising block to 3 o'clock. Cat up, back, and rising block again. Now we're going to turn and face 6 o'clock in a right neutral bow and do a right downward block. And there's our block. Step back, block again, and then back around. Watch this from a side angle. And we're going to talk about another concept, and you'll see how we're using our maneuvers. Let's talk about the maneuvers a little bit. This, we're stepping back, creating distance between us and the opponent. Now we're going to do a reverse step through. There's that reverse step through we talked about earlier. Now we're going to do what we call a left side cover toward, that's now 9 o'clock. We've got 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock is now over here, now 9 o'clock's there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cover out towards 9 o'clock. Outward block. Now we're going to do a left reverse step through, and now we're facing 6. Now we're going to do what we call a rear cover, because now I'm going to face you and do my rising block. Left reverse step through, rising block. Right side cover towards 6 o'clock. And then we're going to do a right reverse step through again. And there it is. Boom. So now you've seen that we've done all our footwork. You've learned what's that? Let's turn around. Let's do the form on all four sides. You saw me do it to 12. You saw me do it to 9. Now I'm going to do it to 6 o'clock. And you just follow along. Okay? Let's do it this way to 3 o'clock. That way you can see it from every angle. I'll slow it up so you can follow along better. Watching it from every angle. Talk about the punches for a minute. We're going to talk about punches and strikes. We'll focus mostly on the hands. So if we're going to do what they call a vertical punch, let me do it towards you. A vertical punch would be where my hand is in a vertical position. Okay? A horizontal punch would be here. Typically we refer to this as a reverse punch. We have the jab and the reverse punch. And you'll notice how I'm twisting in my stance so that my hips and shoulders move together while punching. And you'll notice that the hand is turning and torquing. It's rotating on these reverse type punches. They're twisting and torquing. Look at it from the side. You can see it a little better. The hand is turning. Notice how I'm going into a forward bow. That way I've got backup mass of my body moving. My weight is going with it. My hips and shoulders are moving together, as well as I've got a bracing angle with my leg. So as I turn and punch, the reverse punch, which is also referred to as the horizontal. Now you would have a thrust punch where you're punching out and leaving it out there momentarily with greater depth. A snapping punch would just be out and back real quick. You're just getting out there and back. You're not leaving it out there for any length of time. It's just out and back. Out and back. Whereas the thrust is a little longer, boom, greater depth of penetration. Now you can do that off the rear leg, off of the rear arm. Now we're going to talk about the front arm. This is your lead leg, this is your rear leg. So that's a rear leg reverse punch. Your reverse punch comes off the rear hand. The lead hand would be your jabbing hand, where it comes straight out and back. And notice how I'm torquing it. Okay? It's not vertical, it's at a 45-degree angle. It's a diagonal punch. Straight out and back, just like that. Boom, there. Your uppercut, well, we'll go ahead and talk about your uppercut. The uppercut punch comes at this angle. Look at it from the front. It follows somewhat of an arcing motion. So you could put together a jab, cross, and uppercut. Jab, reverse punch, uppercut. Okay? Those are the essential basic punches I want you to learn at the yellow belt stage. We'll get into other punches later on. Let's talk about some hand strikes. For example, the inward hand sword and the outward. I'm going to just do it from a horse. What you do is this hand will cock up essentially by your jaw or your ear, close to there, and it's going to come on a circular angle. This is going to be the angle of attack. It's a circular motion. Okay, so watch this chop. Inward. The reason why it's inward is because it's moving into our body or moving out. So we've got inward motion and outward motion. So inward hand swords are done this way. And practice doing them this way too. Notice how I'm having my checking hand here to protect my body. It's just a guard. Chop, chop. Inward chop, inward chop. An outward hand sword would be done moving to the outside of the body. And what you would do is it'd come out this way and it would chop at this angle. This would be the angle of attack. Chop, 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 chop. Look at it from this side. You could do it from your neutral bow, for example, and it would be this way, an inward chop and an outward chop. Now if I wanted to, I could step through inward chop and outward chop. Look how those look. Inward, outward, inward, outward, inward, outward, inward, outward, inward chop, outward chop, inward, outward. Okay, from this angle. Inward chop, outward chop, reverse punch, uppercut, chop, spear. Notice how we're putting techniques together. That's how Kenpo is formed, by just putting techniques together. Now we looked at our inward and our outward chop. Let's talk about a hammer fist strike. Let's make it a real simple one. Take your fist where it's chambered by your rib cage and simply snap it back. Okay? Snap, snap, snap. And as we do our self-defense techniques, I'll show you how we'll put this thing together. Same thing on your opposite side. Always practice everything on both sides for now. you're going to come and snap down. It snaps at the end, it torques. This torque helps to accelerate the movement, and therefore, if you put a little bit more speed behind the technique, it's going to have more power. Because what you have, to have power, you have to have speed times weight equals power. So if you've got a heavy object and can get it to move a lot faster, it's going to cause a lot more damage. That's why a bullet can go through that wall, but I can pick up a brick and it won't go through because I can't throw the brick fast enough. But if I put a brick in a cannon, I can shoot it through that wall. So there you go. Power is speed times weight. Okay, go ahead and cut it, Bill. Let's talk about the elbow strikes now. An inward horizontal elbow strike is simply going to come in this way, inward. It can go to the ribs, the sternum, to the head, high. You can do it high, or you can do it in the middle, just like that. The outward elbow goes like this, just like that, outward motion. And this way you should practice doing them. Get used to practicing. That's why we use the horse a lot. The horse stance, the only purpose of the horse stance is so that you can focus on your hands and don't worry about your stances and your foot maneuvers. That's why short form 1 is there, where you put everything together. Here we're just going to concentrate on our motions of our hands. Inward, outward, inward, outward. And you should drill on these. You should do these, like, practice doing about 15, do 30, 15 on each side, that way to the outside. All of your techniques, your punches, your kicks, your strikes, your blocks, you need to drill on them over and over and over so that your brain and your muscles form a bond. And they do it just simultaneously, work together without you having to think about it, just spontaneous reaction. Okay? Let's talk about the inward overhead elbow strike. And it comes down just like this. It circles in and then down. This is your inward overhead elbow. In and down. Okay? Let's look at it from the side. Inward elbows, inward horizontal, horizontal outwards, outward elbow strikes, okay? Then inward overhead. And you'll see where these come into play later on, okay? All right, that's it. Let's look at some of the applications of our movement. We talked about punches first of all. Well, let's do it this side first, Bill, so you can see this the punching. I'm just going to show you target area. You want to start thinking about target area because that's what yellow belt people don't realize it, but they're getting into target areas like the temple, the testicles, the sternum, the mastoid. And you'll see in our techniques that the temple, the mastoid, and the testicles are actually very delicate areas of the body to be stricken. And that's what's good about this, and you're actually learning this in all these yellow belt techniques that we're going to do. Let's just talk about targets. You can do your reverse punch to the sternum, or you can do it to the head, but then it becomes a diagonal punch. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to punch to the head, you can also use a vertical. It's not so much that you want to punch this angle, because if you punch, you can torque in your own wrist this way. It's better at this diagonal, so you won't torque so much when you hit. Boom and boom. Okay, same with your jab. See, and you can also strike to the body, but torque down in your stance. You can even use other stances like your kneeling stances, which we haven't gotten into yet. But I just want to give you an idea what some of the targets are. Where you're punching to the nose, the philtrum, the chin. You can even punch to the throat, the sternum, the solar plexus. You can even punch to the groin low. You can punch at this angle, middle, or high. And notice how we're always moving this back leg so there's a bracing angle for the punches. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about that hammer fist. That's going to be in one of the self-defense techniques, but you can actually use your hammer fist in your neutral bow and strike out to the side. We're going to be using it in our self-defense technique as a, we're going to use it in a self-defense technique in just a little bit when we get into those. But what I wanted to show you was, like, for instance, I could jab out, and let's say you did one of your inward blocks. Block to the inside, I could just immediately come down. Notice how I got my hand check up at all times. So what I can do is I can punch, and if he blocks and deflects it, I can simply go down to the groin and attack. Then I can go ahead and break the arm if I want, or do some other technique. Okay? Let's talk about those inward chops. Inward chop, outward chop. This would be done this way to the neck, and then back out here. Notice how I can hit and drag through and go to the next target. Boom, just like that. Boom, just like that. 1, 2. And if I want to, I can poke to the eyes in between. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? That's just a little insert of a technique where I can poke to the eyes when doing my chops. In fact, what happens is if the guy throws a straight punch to the face, you can do your parry, chop, poke, and chop again. So you can see how these basics are put together real simple. Boom. Okay? So there's that. Inward, outward, chop. Okay? You can insert a spear finger. I can even use that vertical outward block or I can use a parry. Chop, boom, okay? Okay, there's some applications for that. The chops don't always have to go to just this area. I could chop to the bridge of the nose. This is also could be a fitted weapon going to the nose. Here, I could chop to the temple. And also on the outward chops, I could chop to the rib cage, or I can go down to the groin. Okay? So you can see how your chops to the upper area, middle, and downward if you want. Okay, we'll go ahead and cut it off. Okay, I just wanted to show some of the anywhere right there. But we're gonna. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Let's talk about the kicks right now. The first thing we're going to talk about is the front kick, and we're going to do it on that front leg. Let's get in our neutral bow. Start practicing getting in your neutral bow all the time. Okay. What you want to do is do your cat stance, and from the cat stance, raise your knee and point your knee at the target you're going to kick at, just like this. Just like that. And that's how, this is a front snapping ball kick. Boom. Let me do it facing the camera so you can see what it looks like at you. Just like that, and set it down. And replant to the ground. We cat up, kick, and then plant down. Don't just kick and drop the foot, okay? Always cock it back, because you might want to launch something else from there. Let's look at it on a rear leg now. That was the front leg, would be done this way. Front snapping ball kick. On the rear leg, you would actually turn and kick to the area. This would be more of a thrusting kick, where you put your hips into it. The difference between a snapping kick and a thrusting kick is you put your hips into it. That's the difference, okay? Should have warmed my legs up, man. Pull a muscle here. Okay, let's talk about the knife edge kick. Let's say you're in your neutral bow and I'm facing 3 o'clock, okay? What you want to do is bring your foot up by your left knee. Your right foot by your left knee. And then kick. We're going to do a downward kick towards the knee this way. And notice how I kick with the heel of my foot. Watch it. Back. And down. And down. Knife edge kick. The difference between a knife edge, a snapping knife edge kick, or a side thrust and a side snap kick, the difference is one snaps out and the other uses the hip. And notice how I turn my body and threw my hips in a downward motion for marriage of gravity, and I also dropped this leg because that lends marriage of gravity to that kick. Watch it again. Side snap, boom, and then the side thrust. Okay? You can also do them a little higher too. We'll talk about step-throughs in a second. Just like that. Let's talk about the roundhouse kick. The way this kick is done, it's just like doing a front kick but to the side. You're going to point your knee at the target again. So when I turn, I'll do it off the front leg, make it easier for you. You're going to bring it up, point the knee, and kick at the target. Just like that. Boom. In fact, Bill, turn around for a second. We're going to talk about the back kick now, and then we'll get into the step-through kicks. Those were just snapping kicks where we brought the leg in and snapped it out. For example, the front snap kick, side snap kick, okay, and then the wheel kick which snaps. This I call the wheel kick. A roundhouse is actually different. I'll show you the difference between a wheel kick and a roundhouse. Let's talk about the back kick for a minute. This is our back kick. What's going to happen is you're going to be in what we call a reverse cat stance. This is your cat stance. If you rock your weight forward, that's a reverse cat stance. So look at that. Cat, reverse cat. Cat, reverse cat. All you're doing is rocking your weight from cat to reverse cat. And while you're in this reverse cat, you're going to bring your foot up and you're going to kick straight back. But when I look over, don't look like this to see where you're kicking. Look down your arm. Just like that when you back kick. So let's look at that for a second. Reverse cat and back kick. And back kick. Reverse cat and back kick. Boom. And what you're doing is don't bring it up, cock it, kick it out, cock it back. Make it follow an arc. It should loop up on an arc to where it's just coming straight up and then straight back. Boom. Boom. Okay? That's it. Why don't you come over here too, Bill, and let's so we can show some of the target areas we're going to go into with these kicks. That's good thing we took a little break. You could have left your killer hat on. Why don't you stand at this angle here, Bill, and we'll show it's essentially those snapping kicks. Go ahead and get in your neutral bow. Switch around the other way. what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that front snap kick and how you can, the difference between snapping and thrusting and stepping through, okay? The snap kick, of course, you can pick up the groin as a target, and you can use the face as a target. So you've got 1, 2. You can pick these 2 targets. You can also kick to the body, but the body is kind of mushy. You'd actually want to do a thrust kick so that you get greater depth of penetration. You'd want to penetrate through, okay? So there's 2 targets, but there's also other targets. Like let's say we were starting to engage in a fight, and I want to keep you from being able to, you have height, width, and depth. And if you can use your height, width, and depth, you can fight with me. But if I can control those zones, then you're less able to fight, and I'm in more control of the situation. What you can do, your front kick, you can use it to go to that far knee. You don't have to always kick to the groin. You can even come in and kick the guy's, and then he starts to lose he elongates his base, and that controls his balance more as well as his depth, height, and width. So it does not always have to be the most obvious target. You could front kick to this knee. You can go to the groin, to the knee. So most people always think of kicking to the testicles, the sternum, or the face. So you see there's other targets there. Same thing with a side snap kick. You can side snap kick to the front knee. You could be starting to fight, getting in close, and side snap kick to the far knee. Okay? So you have other options there. That knee to the rear as well. You can side thrust kick. Thrusting is where you're going to use your hips. That's where you would thrust out, and you could go to the body if you want. You could also be fighting with some guy and side snap kick to the face if you want. But we're going to talk more about the roundhouse kick. This would be a step through kick. A step through is this, right? So if I step through and kick, step through kick. Obvious what it means, right? Let's talk about, for example, a roundhouse and a wheel kick. A wheel kick is a snap kick, and a roundhouse is a thrust kick. And that's the difference. The difference is a wheel kick, we could be fighting, and all of a sudden just, I come up and go to the groin right here. And what it does is it snaps at an angle, okay? So it's not a front kick, but an angle. A thrusting, like a roundhouse, would be where I throw my entire body into the kick so that I put all my weight and focus it in. That's the difference between a roundhouse and a thrust. Whereas, like looking at the camera right now, a wheel kick would be simply snapping at an angle. Whereas a roundhouse would be the entire body going behind the kick. You can mix them up like a front snap and a roundhouse kick, which is what we're just doing here. Okay, front snap, roundhouse. There's some basic kicks there. Let's see what else. Oh, the back kick. This is important to remember. When doing your back kick, you want to don't look like this when you do your back kick. Don't turn and kick and then do your back kick. Look down your shoulder and back kick. Okay? There's a good reason for that. Let's say you're over here, Bill. You're about there. Get in the right neutral bow to 3 o'clock. Face that way. Come over here a little bit so we'll be on camera. Let's say well, just stand natural and face that way. Let's say that, you think we're on the camera here? Now, let's say you hear me coming, so you look over to see me coming, and then I snap your neck. I just snap and break your neck. That's why you look down the shoulder. Let's say you're coming up behind me, and I hear you, so I want to back kick you, so come up behind me and start to go for my neck. But see, look, I'm looking down so if you torque, I got my chin here for protection. But if I look over my shoulder, oh, I hear somebody coming, I better back kick. Oh, it's too late. So I hear you coming, I start to step off, I look down the shoulder, then I can start using my back kick to keep you from me. So when somebody's walking up, sneaking up behind you, never look over your shoulder to see who's coming. Step off and look down your arm. That's another important thing too. When doing this back kick, always start to step off and look down before launching. See what's back there. Could be your buddy walking up to give you your iced tea. Okay. Let's cut it off. And let's start doing... Oh, we're on again, are you? Okay, good. Yeah, we'll bring our notebook so we can just look down and see. Delayed sword. Okay, that's going to be our first technique. Delayed sword, what we're going to do is go ahead and come from... let's do it from both angles. Okay? What is going to happen on this, it's going to be a grab. With this hand, it's a shoulder grab, and the guy perhaps might be getting ready to punch with that hand. What we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to pin. This part of our hand is going to fit inside his, and we're going to pull as we step back. And look what just happened. We controlled his depth zone by pulling him back. Now, this is the way you would do it for a grab, but if it's going to be a punch, let's say he goes to throw a punch with that hand, we're going to hammer off to the inside of the arm using that inward block. Then we're going to cat up, front kick to the groin, and set down with a knife hand strike to the neck. Okay? So let's watch this again. He starts to grab. We pull, control the height zone, because if you were going to punch with that hand, and I went like this, that would help to control your ability to punch well with that hand. Not only that, but watch what happens as I do this and he gets the punch off. I can go ahead and start to pinch off that punch as well. Then I can cat up, front kick, and do my chop and continue on my technique. So it doesn't matter if he grabs you, if he punches, or if he grabs you and gets the punch off. What happens is even if he's starting to punch, you're going to be controlling that punch quite a bit right here by pulling. There's not going to be that much power when he's going this way. So let me do it on the camera for you so you can see what it looks like just by yourself practicing. You're going to fall back in your neutral bow and hammer, pin, check, hammer, cat up, front kick, and set down and chop. Look at it from this angle. Block, cat up, front kick, and knife hand strike. You can practice this technique on both sides, but really one side is fine. Okay? You know, a lot of these techniques we can interchange, and you want to practice them on both sides, but not necessarily all of them. Okay? Let's look at alternating maces, our next technique. I guess we can just leave it around. We'll cut off stuff. Go ahead and let's turn off something. All right, let's look at delayed sword. We're going to do it on the opposite side now. Practice it on both sides. Let's look at some of the concepts that are in it. First of all, we're going to move our whole body back as a unit together. Don't step and block. Move all at once together. Boom. The whole body as a unit. We're creating distance between us and our opponent. We're striking with this inward block. We're controlling the depth and the width of our opponent, as well as our own depth and width is being controlled by us here. Then we're catting up into our here. We're going to front kick, front snapping ball kick, which we just covered. And as you set down, you chop. And use this planting down motion to put marriage of gravity into your knife hand strike, or your sword hand strike. All right? Let's do alternating maces. Technique number 2, alternating maces. This is against the two-handed push. Boom, the guy does this. Okay? What's going to happen is he goes to push, and as he does, you're going to control his depth and width with this inward block motion. Okay? So you're going to step back in your right neutral bow, just like in short form 1. Right? So let's look at that. He pushes, you control the depth and width, and then you're going to pivot and punch to the rib cage. But go ahead and stay here for a minute. What happens, Bill, is when you punch, boom, you're going to hit him, he's going to arch somewhat this way. You should be turning in this direction. If you hit him this way, it's going to make him arch like that. That exposes this target. You see, that's why we do that back fist. Because when you hit a guy in the ribs like this, he would probably arch in that direction. Which I don't think sorry you do it. So let's do it again. Pushes, boom, and punch to the rib cage. Punch here, and then back fist. Now let's do it for the camera. Let's do it for the camera. We're going to step back and begin to push those hands away from us, controlling the width and the depth. Check, punch, and go into a forward bow. And then we're going to go back in our neutral bow and back fist. And back fist. So let's look at that. Neutral, forward bow. We've got our bracing angle so that we can get power. A forward bow gives you forward linear momentum so that you have good solid power in your reverse punch to the rib cage. And then as you torque back with the back fist to the temple. Okay? Boom, just like that. Boom. You're here. Back fist. All right. Okay. All right, let's talk about the next one. Okay, Bill, come on over. Right about there. Victim on the set. We're going to do sword of destruction technique number 3. What this is against, the guy comes in and does this left hook punch, kind of a haymaker type of thing. What we want to do is as he throws a left hook, we're going to step off. We're not going to step to 6 o'clock. We're going to step to 7 o'clock so that we're at an angle to that punch. So as it comes in, we use our extended outward block. So we keep our hand check right here. So we block out, then we're going to cat up and front kick. And after we front kick to the groin, this should make him bend forward from that strike. And as we set down, boom, we're going to chop to the neck. We're going to use marriage of gravity. So it'll look like this. You'll, instead of stepping straight back to 6, step to 7 o'clock at an off angle. Cat up, front kick, and chop with marriage of gravity behind you in that chop. Okay? Bill, come over for a second. We'll talk about that check. What happens is the guy throws that haymaker punch, you step off at that angle, you kick, he bends over, and then when you chop, you're going to hit him here, and then no sooner do you do that, but you're going to put your hand, your palm here like that. That's that check we're talking about. So what happens, Bill, is as he's bent over and you chop, don't just chop and stand there, chop, and then this hand starts to check down this way, and this hand checks also forward. So what happens is at the end of the technique, when you do your block, your kick, and when you're setting down here, you're using your gravitational marriage to set down, but you're also using the rotational force of your hips. So you've got more than one thing coming into play here. You chop and then check like this. It's chop, check, and then cross out. Later on, when we get in the orange belt techniques, we'll start crossing out on everything. During the yellow belt, we don't really cross out. When you get in the orange belt, you will. But that's what that means by that check at the end. You chop and then check real quick. Check the shoulder and his head, and then cross out. That way he's not rising up against you. Let's go ahead and talk about deflecting hammer. Keep it rolling. Let's do it from this angle again. What this technique is for, a guy does a front thrusting kick. What he does, it's not a snapping kick. It's more of a step through with the right leg. So we're going to this thing. What's going to happen is going to be a front kick to the body. And what happens is, as he comes and he kicks, we're going to step off into a cat stance and a block. But we're going to use that block to pull the leg. So watch, when you do your kick, we step off, and we're going to step in with this, okay? Go ahead and set your foot down over here, Bill. I'm going to show you how this technique would land in here with this elbow strike. And notice where this hand is checking to keep that arm away from us. And this block, after you block in your cat and elbow in, it's one continuous motion. It's a downward block, elbow. And if you want to, you can continue the elbow through and then come into a back fist to the spinal cord and scoop up into the groin here, catch those testicles, and back kick them into the kidney or the spine if you want. That's just a little bit of extension to the movement. So look at it for a second again. He does his kick, he's committed, you block it off, and we elbow through, okay? So here's what it looks like when you're doing it by yourself. We block the kick off, we check, we have our hand check up, we cat. I think in the book, you'll see it says go into a neutral boat. But go ahead and step back into a cat so that you can get in quicker. Inward elbow. And if you want, move up the circle, back knuckle into the spine, catch the testicles from the rear, and then back kick. Okay?
Makes more sense than what the book says.
What's that?
Going into a cat.
Oh, yeah.
Makes it easier to come forward, too.
Captured twigs. Rear bear hug with the arms pinned.
This is the one I would
Okay.
have trouble with.
Huh? Come over here, Bill, and we'll show how this was done. What happens is the guy gets you in a bear hug. Now, instead of going for your testicles, I'm just going to go for the thigh. What you're going to do is you're going to step down, and this will control your opponent's height zone as he's trying to apply the bear hug. So you step off in your horse so that you go down, but bring your checking hand up so something doesn't fly up and poke your eyeballs out. And while you do, you're going to do a hammer, that back hammer fist we taught. You're going to hit him in his testicles, okay? This would be a groin strike. So we control the height zone. Go ahead. We control the height zone and strike back here. This should release the grip. If it doesn't, watch this. I'm going to show you something else. If this doesn't release the grip, stomp his foot, and that'll get him to bend over some more as you cat up and then catch him with this elbow. When you hit him in the testicles, that'll probably make him let go. So you'll hit him here, and then if you want, you can stomp the foot, then cat up and elbow. But this is how it looked like the way it says to be done in the book. In fact, I can show you about 4 variations of how to do this technique differently. Hammer the groin, cat up, and elbow. This is an obscure elbow, by the way, because it comes up through a zone of obscurity. You notice how the check always alternates with a weapon. So look at it again. Hammer, elbow. And think about your stances and your transitions and all your movements. Your hammer, cat up, elbow strike together. Boom, just like that. Okay? Captured twigs. Can turn it off a second. But the next technique, number 6, is grasp of death. And death is always a choke. That's a synonym for when you hear the word death. What happens is it gets in the bear hug, and as soon as you feel him start to grab, you take this hand and grab a hold of his immediately and anchor your elbow. Because if you try to grab, go ahead and choke me, Bill. He can choke me now, but if I anchor my arm, now choke me as hard as you can. As long as I keep my arm anchored, he can't choke. You're going to drop this leg on top of his. That'll control the height zone. Not only that, watch this. Go ahead and try to choke me. You can't. As long as I keep As long as I keep your height zone checked like that, you can't apply the headlock. You have to be able to torque into it. This elongates this part of the body and keeps him from being able to apply the headlock. So what happens is if he starts to choke, you grab anchor, and you do a ridge hand. You can do a ridge hand on the groin, but Bill's so far away, what I can do is I can also pinch this part of the leg. Instead of doing the ridge hand, I can pinch. Come here. I can pinch this part of the leg, and look what that does. It makes you get jittery. Then I slip out and step forward, and I apply this. What we're going to do, keep it on camera if we can, what we're doing is pushing the guy forward and breaking the elbow. And what you have to do is pull this arm up while pushing this one down. No sooner do that, we check and then punch to the mastoid. Just like that. Let me do it on camera so you can see. What you're going to do is keep your breathing constant, anchor your arm, drop your knee into his, ridge hand to the groin, or you can pinch the bicep from behind, hold it out, push and drive him over, and then punch him in the mastoid. Boom. Just like that. And that's how grasp of death is done. Look at it from this way. 1, 2, punch, and there it is. Let's do checking the storm now. A storm, when you hear the word storm, it's always a club because it comes from overhead. Not all club attacks are from overhead. We're going to have some side-to-side ones, but we're going to use the storm is going to refer to club. Now on this one, we call it checking the storm because we're actually going to be checking the club, not really blocking it. So let's do it from this angle, Bill. Get right there. What you're going to do is you're going to come down with your club attack. And what we're going to do is, here's the path of aggression. As you start to step at me so you can get me, right? But do it. Let's see a good solid club strike. Boom. Okay, look. Now watch this. As we see that club coming in, we're going to try to get off of that path, and we're going to do this. We're going to check. We're going to check it off that way. So that this hand is going to move first. As we see the club coming down to our head. Now watch. We're going to do, I'm just holding like that because I'm going to show you the motion that you want to be doing. You're going to want to step off into the cat stance. And as you do, you're going to want to start to parry this pass. And as you do, this hand's going to come across and simply check. So you see we've got two motions working together. So let's do it. We check off this way, and then when we do get over here, right state position, after we check the club away, we front kick to the groin. Okay? So let's do it again now. Good? You're off. We front kick to the groin, side kick to the knee, and a back fist to the temple. So go ahead and let me just show you for the camera. Here's what you do. You step off at this angle, front kick to the groin. That's your first move. All these moves should work together. Go back, start to parry, cat up, front kick. And as you set down in your front kick, you're going to actually set down in a twist stance. And this is going to help carry you into your side kick, actually. From here, front kick, it pulls you into that side kick. And that's that step through side kick we were talking about earlier, where you step through, side kick, and then back fist to the temple. And that's the way it looks. You want to do it from a different angle, Bill? Sure. That way you can see it from this angle as well. So what happens is, as the club's coming down, and I step off this way, I front kick, I'll probably bend them over a little bit, and then I kick this way, we'll start to bend them back more, and then I can back fist to the temple. So that's what it looks like. Cat stance, inward parry, check it out, front kick, pull, side kick, and then back fist. Mace of aggression is number 8. What this one is, it's for a two-handed lapel grab. Come over here, Bill, let's do this one together real quick. The guy grabs you, and he's going to like, hey, man. So what you do is, as he grabs you and pulls you in, you go ahead and go with the motion. Pull me into you, Bill. You go ahead and you're going to strike across the nose with this, and then anchor your hand down. So as he pulls, you go with the motion, and you hit, and then what a lot of guys will do, they'll try to hit the arms across this way. What you want to do is, after you hit, anchor, and look how that pulled you forward. Then we're going to elbow here, and back elbow here. And it's actually, this is a very good technique because it can be done extremely quick, where you're coming up, boom. And watch how I threw a little extra move in there. If you want to, come here for a second. I'm not going to throw it too hard because I don't want to cause an injury. But the guy starts to grab you and pull you. What you can do is you can begin to lead off with this leg as they move simultaneously and break both. Then anchor. What you'll notice is, all I have to do, I could use my back muscle, is pull my arm into myself, and then my back muscle goes to work. Boom, and then elbow. So we're hitting a sandwiching effect, we're hitting out. So you can do it both ways. You can start out with the raking back knuckle, and this will kick simultaneously if you want. Here, here. Okay? Let's do it slow and watch it from an angle without the kick. Okay? Rake, anchor, and that anchor is one circle. Inward elbow, outward elbow. Together. Boom. See? All works together. Boom. All together. 1, 2, 3. Just like that. And that's all it is. An inward hammer, anchor, elbow, inward elbow, outward elbow. We were just talking about earlier. There's those inward and outward elbow strikes we were talking about. Here's that raking back knuckle across the bridge of the nose. The thing that's good about that kick going with it is you can either elongate, it's a slicing side snap kick is what it is. You can either elongate his base or you can snap his right knee. If he doesn't start to move that leg, it'll just go ahead and break and snap the knee in half. Okay, so they work together. Let's go ahead and go on to number 9, attacking mace. Come over here, Bill. This one here is essentially where the guy goes to throw a punch, bam, but he's stepping through. I don't know how many people actually step through with punches, but it can also be done with the reverse punch, where the guy goes, we'll get a little closer, throw a right punch off that hand, okay? That's a circular punch right there, the one you just did, we deflected it off. You can use it against that. What this is like a guy like this, a bam, this type of boxer type of thing where he's punching straight out. What you're going to do is you're going to create distance as he punches, boom, and do your parry. And then no sooner do you parry, it's actually an inward block in the book, but I like to parry across and control the depth and the width with this motion. Then what happens is we go straight for the rib cage again with that punch, and we keep our hand check here. No sooner do we punch here, we front kick to the groin, and then we set down and punch to the kidney. See how I let all my weight drop down into there? Let's look at the first move though, because this is the most important part of a technique, is the very first move. So when he goes to punch, boom, and you go straight for those ribs. Don't waste any time. You're in your forward bow. For power, I'll just do it in the camera now. I just want you to see how that was first done. When the punch first starts to come at you, step back, punch. You're going to step back and parry it off, punch to those rib cage, and go into your forward bow so you can get power in that punch.
It's time.
Is it? Wheel kick,